Welcome to everyone to today's Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, in which we are taking up the topic of jamming and riffing. And this is from the musical tradition, and we have a truly beloved singer-songwriter, Kekioka Aina, a child of the land, Paul Izak. And to introduce him, I'm going to call on a very dear mutual friend of ours, Sarah Hodges.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey, good to see you all. So I had the joy of meeting Paul quite a few years ago. And Paul has come from a musical background. So I think if I have it right, Paul, you started studying when you were pretty young and playing guitar, and just an incredible musician. You can feel through his music this connection and awareness of land and community and space. And it really just comes through his singing, his lyrics, his guitar playing. And I think that really shows where the heart of the music is. And I think he has about 7 albums out now and has had countless opportunities to perform and to play with different musicians, and opportunities to really take music in a more kind of industry sense that would be maybe stream into a different way that is at his core. And so I really love that you held that value, and he holds the value of truth and what's true to his heart. And so now lives in Waimanalo and is a farmer and really cultivating the relationship with land and sharing that passion for land cultivation and growing organic foods and veggies and living well, eating well, laughing every day. Really embodies that in his everyday and through his music. So welcome, Paul. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sarah, for those words. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's such an honor to be asked to share in this way. It was interesting when I was asked to share riffing and jamming and that energy. It's like putting that into words is like, I was like, oh, how do I express this? How do I share this? Because sometimes, when you get in those jams, it's like hours go by. It's like time is nothing. It's like, how do you explain this timelessness? But I'm very grateful, Renee and Sarah, for asking me to be here. And to all of you holding space today, thank you for welcoming me. So I just wanted to just jump right in. Basically, who here considers themselves musical? All right. I saw everybody raise their hand. That's what I've really learned with music, is that it is truly, as you've heard shared, it's a universal language, and we don't need a whole lot to be musical. We have all the tools within us. And that's what's been truly the miracle that I've witnessed in playing with others, in playing campfire settings, in instances where I don't speak the same language as others, where that music bonds and connects us in a space that is like really deeply rooted. It's a divine mystery of creative expansion. And what's cool about music is that we do have a framework to go by. So just like we're speaking, we have the ABCs. We have musical theory. There's avenues that we can go down in the musical path that bring us some structure. So it's like when you go into a jam with instruments, having that structure becomes really key to being in tune, being in a flow. But really, you don't have to know much. Sometimes one of the most key things you can do is hold the drone, hold that one note of D, or whatever note it is, and just like be the drone in the back so that other instruments can dance upon that. And I feel like as I was exploring what jamming is and what riffing is, having a riff is taking this little melody line, like, I'll take my harmonica. It's just, So something that seems simple, like, is a little riff that if I bring in a band, that everybody has their little key components to play off of each other and create a jam. So it's like, it's actually perfect that I'm doing this talk today, because I went to the ultimate jamming and riffing concert last night where I was invited to play harmonica. And as I was playing, I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to share about this tomorrow. I don't know if you guys know who Ron Artiste is, or the Artiste family. If you don't know them, I highly recommend looking them up. They're all amazing, talented musicians. But Ron Artiste is truly just, from what I've witnessed and experienced in his presence, is he navigates music the most unique I've ever experienced, in the sense of, he called me up. He's like, hey, Paul, you want to come jam at Blue Note? You know, I mean, Blue Note's a beautiful space. And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's like, and I know that Ron has that space, that jam space within his band. They're holding that space. So when I show up, he's holding the space within a jam, even if they don't know what they're playing. Like often, like they'll just start playing a blues in G or something, and I'll just start riffing. You know, it's like bringing your energy of what that riff might add to the jam, and then being grateful for whatever comes out. You know, it's like this beautiful experience where you get to explore your instrument or your voice or whatever it might be. And in that instance yesterday, there were many musicians there, and the horn section, right before they went on stage, they laughed. They were like, well, we have some framework to go by, but if we know how this jam is going to go, we're going to be going all over the place, but at least we have something to come back to, you know? It's like, and that's what makes music beautiful, is like someone can call out a key of a song, be like, hey, blues in G, or this little jam in G, and then it can build off that. And that's the communal jam setting that I've grown to really love. And I mean, it starts within ourselves, of like being open to this mysterious energy of music, and that trusting that we know where the music wants to go. I think there's a unique channel that is opened in all of us to find a deepening within that language that we were speaking of. So it's like, for me as a singer and songwriter, there's a tangible energy that I feel when I know it's time to write a song, when I know it's like, oh, you better get to your guitar because something wants to come through. And it, you know, if you wait, you're going to miss it. So in that energy of understanding that jam mentality of like, if I pick up my guitar right now, something will happen, and it'll bring me to some space, maybe a musical creation, or maybe it's just an energetic expression of the moment. I think that's, for me, what music has been, is like, when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I'm angry, when I'm whatever emotion it is, it's an outlet to fully express and to channel energy. And often, I would say most times, you go into that energy, you're uplifted. There's a sense of joy, a sense of connection to something that you might not even be able to explain in the moment. It's that mystery, that essence of all that is, you know. And music is like this really straightforward path to being in that mystery, you know. Just like meditation, when we drop into meditation, that chaos can be going in our mind, but slowly, as it starts to, you know, we start to hone in on that space of infinite energy, then boom, things start to expand, things are falling away. And you might have heard the phrase being in the zone in jamming. It's like when you enter the zone, nothing else is really, it's that meditation. It's a moving meditation. And that's why I think I was really attracted to music in general, is because when I started getting in that energy of jamming with others or expressing my mind in that way, you know, I have a busy mind. Just in getting to know myself over the years, I grew up with a lot of judgments and different mental things that weren't the healthiest. And maybe I didn't express them to anybody, but later in doing my own personal work, I realized that I had these little mental kind of programs that I kept telling myself, and music and this energy of getting into a space of meditation, which for me was also the garden, you know, and moving my body and other things, but it allowed me to kind of detach from so much of a mental movement of what should happen or what my mind's telling me. It's more of like a release to welcome in what is in the moment, you know, and being open to it just being a flow. And that was another thing I wanted to share, is like how I feel it is, it's creative flow energy, which we can find anywhere in our lives. It's like the ability to just tap into this flow. And with music, you know, we have our fingers, we have our claps, we have whatever it might be, you know, wherever it wants to go. I mean, we can get expressive with it. So for me, like as I start to explore that creative energy, I like to kind of explore with my voice as well, but it might not even start as a lyric, you know, as a da ba da ba da ba da 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 ba da ba da 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 boom boom da ba da ba da 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 boom da ba da 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 da, and maybe you start to bring in some lyrics to it, and then there's no expectation of where it wants to go and no judgment of what's coming out. I've seen voice in the sky, yes, something that can't be seen by the eye, yes, a feeling of love, a feeling of mystery, a feeling of bliss growing on this here tree. And what you give is what you got, my friends, yes, and this is love that never ends. Boom boom. Dum bum gum da bum da da ba da 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 boom ba ba da da bum da 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 da. And that's like there for us in any moment, you know, to tap into. And what's amazing is that it can also be gone in a moment, and that's okay too. So many times I've done jams just like that, and it's like it releases, and it was what it was in the moment. And I probably won't remember what I said or what I just did, but there's an energy of just tapping into creative flow in the moment. And that's kind of my point with that, is just like to be open to it, you know, is the biggest part that I've seen. Is like many times I had a fear of stepping into a riff, stepping into a jam, where it's like, whoa, I'm not quite qualified to like jump in with these guys. Like, who am I to, you know, that voice that comes in that says like, I could throw a dope beat on this. I could like throw lyrics that are great. But then your mind comes in and is like, wait, are you good enough? You know, watching that part of your mind that wants to judge you for, you know, past experiences or whatever. But in this moment, if you drop that, like, and go for it, something beautiful could happen. Jamming with other people, that sometimes I walk away from that jam going, oh my gosh, I was in the zone on that jam. And sometimes I walk away going, well, I don't know where I went with that. And I don't know if you know where I went with that, but it was what it was, and you move on. And I feel like that's kind of the key to continuing the forward motion of musical energy and jamming and riffing, is not judging yourself by your past, because obviously this relates to so much in life, but keeping that musical energy moving forward. Some people have told me like, oh, I embarrassed myself like singing one time, and that stigma of that moment can continue to come back, and unless we face that and be like, oh, that was then, and I've learned from that, that's been my biggest thing, is like, even now when I step on the stage, I feel that energy of wanting to step into the fear of doubting. I hear the mind being like, what are you gonna do? Like, you know, that one that wants to question what's about to happen. Like, are you ready for this? Like, because stepping on that stage last night with Ron Artiste and that band, they are such amazing musicians, like hands down. But they're, like I was saying, they're holding the container for you to jump in that zone with them. And that's what's really cool about musicians and being in a space where jamming is possible, because already my inhibitions or judgments are gone because they're holding that space. So if you're just getting into music, or if this is just something you need to hear to apply to other parts of your life, I really feel like that energy of jamming and riffing is really about being present with your skill set in the moment and being okay with that. And last night when I was jamming the harmonica, they had this riff. I'll try to play it. It was just like, and they just brought it real low. And then I was able to just hold space harmonically over that. I should have my little headpiece so I can do both at once. But it was really truly one of those moments where it was like, as I started playing more notes. I started like doing things I don't normally do, and the band was responding to that. So it was like there's this give and receive energy when in a jam that's held in that sense of container, that is like ebbs and flows with the high energies of it and the low nuances of it, and where it wants to take you within that.
Oh, so beautiful, Paul. Paul, before we go into conversation, would you like to play for us a song, or at least a part of a song of yours that arose out of jamming and riffing?
Yeah, sure. So like one that I've actually written, or should we make one up?
Either way, we're happy for both. If you're inspired, let's jam it.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to see where that space wants to go with you all. And if anyone would like to just throw out a key, like just key of A. So I didn't really get to say a lot about musical theory and all that stuff, but within that framework that I was speaking of, we have notes to choose from. So A to G. If anyone wants to say any of those, any one letter, and I'll choose. Anyone can.
I like the sound of D.
All right, I love D.
And I'm going to ask Marnita, if as our African fusion teacher who leads us through all kinds of jamming dancing, if you could dance along with Paul. I'll do it too. I'll join. Anybody can. Everybody, you can stand up.
Got a little movement in my soul. Gotta express myself, yes, yeah. Oh, I just gotta let go. Ain't gonna judge where it's going. Oh, ebb and flow, keep on flowing. Yes, I know. Movement of the heart, yeah. Gotta know right where it starts. It's that one love vibration, a healing of the nation. And I feel it once it hits me deep within, yeah. When I start to get a little grin, and I know that music flowing is gonna be that vibration growing in my friends, oh, in my loved ones. Oh, gotta remind each other, have a little fun, yeah. And sometimes you gotta bring it down real low. Gotta bring it round nice and slow to let everybody know this is where it came from. This is that foundation. Gotta feel it alive in your heart. Gotta feel it right from the start. Gotta move and shake it, let it go, let it feel, come heart and soul. Cause I know this energy is moving. Call it what you will. Creative flow energy, let you know. Creative energy flow, the one that always lets you know this is how we grow, yeah. Just like the trees, just like the trees, yeah. This is an energy flow, here to let you know this is how you're gonna grow. Present to the moment, plant them seeds. One more time, gotta say, this is an energy flow, the one that lets you know it's time to grow. So keep on growing. Oh, mahalo, mahalo.
That was fun.
Because you guys got up and jammed, I was like feeling more of a funky, bluesy vibe there.
Oh, that was so much fun.
And just like, you know, like I was saying, there's that framework to go by. So it's like, even though I just made that up, it's like I know there's, you know, certain chords that I play for a certain energy, and that was particularly like more of a bluesy, funky vibe. But it really goes with what you're feeling in the moment, and if it wants to be that. And sometimes, you know, key of D would have brought me to something very melancholy, you know, and what it's, and that's what I was sharing before. It's like catering to what it wants to be in the moment. But anyway, how you guys feeling?
Yes.
Thank you so much for letting me share and express.
Thank you, Paul, and do know we're recording, so actually it's never lost.
All right. That's a good thing, because most songs when I do that, I'm like, I don't remember what I said or did. So,
You know, I had a chance to do a little bit of research on the etymology of the words.
sure. Yeah, I kind of looked it up too. What did you find?
Well, I forget what I found out about riffing. I kind of got caught up in the jam part.
Yeah.
And
I saw something that kind of related them and that they were kind of very similar, where the riff is more like a line, a tagline, whereas the jam is like the sense of a jamming energy of people. So I'm curious what you might have heard.
well, just from the source of it, I was just intrigued by the source that a jam session, I think it was back in the 1920s in New York City, when Black musicians would get together. They were in kind of a contestant sort of mode to see who could come up with the best improvisation on the spot. And Bing Crosby would come there, and he was, you know, a white singer. So I don't know whether it was a compliment or not, but they would say that Bing Crosby was jamming the beat. He would clap on the one, he would clap on the three. I think it was a compliment, I'm not really sure, but they would say he was jamming the beat. And then somebody else who was involved in these jam sessions, he got known for always wanting to play a piece called Jelly Roll. And so the musicians in the jam sessions would be calling back and forth to one another.
Jelly roll.
And they'd call Jelly Roll, and then he'd say, Jelly, what's my jam? And so it was a little play on words. So that was fun to hear about that possible source of the word we use. In fact, they had less idea of really where riff came from. Yeah, but what I was kind of really wondering wanting to ask everybody about was this idea of taking a certain theme and then elaborating on it and playing on it, like that first little harmonica theme that Paul played at the beginning and how he played that out. And then also the idea of a jam session where people are playing off of one another in an improvised way. How does that relate to your life if you're not a musician who does these things with other musicians? It seems like they're still valid concepts. They're still really relevant concepts to our lives if we've never been in a jam session ourselves, which I know Paul and Sarah, who's another wonderful musician on the violin, and I suspect Marnita, maybe on drums or whatever she plays, you've been involved in them. I don't know about the rest of us if we've actually been part of a jam session. So how do we make sense of it in our lives?
Blah, 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 blah.
That's a good start right there.
So when the COVID hit, I decided it was time to return to the keyboard. And I've had this piece of music that I've kind of dove into once or twice over the many years. Very simple. And in fact, it fits this notion. It's called, speaking of D, it's canon in D, Paco Bell. And it is ultimately simple. This la, 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 and it just repeats and it builds and it improvises upon itself. And it's so simple and it's very trance-inducing in its simplicity. Yes, I've fallen in love with the key of D major through that. But everything you've said so far reminded me of a jam band that I had the opportunity to jump into when I lived on the Big Island. And it was more or less hosted by one character who grew up in a musical family. His father's a professional classical guitarist, and he and his twin brother both went to competing music schools. And he's a virtuoso on the piano and the saxophone, and just music in general. And he held such a space, and there were ultimately about 11 people that would get together, and we would do just that. There would be some little riff. I don't think we called it that. And then we would all just start to improv upon each other. And we would drop into this zone that I can't, you're speaking my language, but we would drop into this place where time just disappeared. And we were feeling, and you could feel the energy move around the group. One person would take over and it would just lift here and it would move around and it would go and it would go and it would go. And all of a sudden we would end all on the same note, like all simultaneously, like we were all in one mind. And I think it was quite possibly the most extraordinary experiences of my life when we would get together and jam. So you really touched me with this talk.
Right on, David. Yeah, I totally relate. Some of those jams, those deeper jams where you all feel so connected, they're life altering. I mean, they really bring you to that sense of what an ebb and flow, very present moment feeling is with multiple people involved, particularly in a jam. So yeah, I feel you.
I was thinking that the word jam might have come from this notion of, because when you make a jam, like a preserve, you bring a variety of ingredients or a whole lot of fruit together and you simmer it all down into this one harmonious piece. So it feels to me like the term jam came from the culinary idea.
That too. Gumbo too.
Gumbo. Is that a musical term as well?
Yeah, just that gumbo, that New Orleans vibe. So it's like they'll say like music's like a gumbo, put it all together.
Nice.
So it felt like the same thing.
It's really nice to hear all the textures of a jam as you described. And for me, it really relates to every and any human relationship, or even a relationship with I was walking a horse yesterday and cleaning a horse, and any intimate relationship or relationship with family or friends, it's a jam. And sometimes we walk away and we're like, oh, what was the notes that I was playing and what was that? And sometimes it's just so together and resonant. And I wonder, this talking made me think, I wonder if there's, just like learning an instrument, that there's certain, like music theory, but like relational theory, and it's not something that's widely educated, and so that's why there's conflict and disharmony in human jams. And that if there was some understanding, or the more we understand our harmonizing, there's just this resonant harmony, even in a short passing, or with family or with close friends, it could be anyone, that it changes our lives in that single moment. Yeah, it's fun to feel the human connection as a jam.
Beautifully phrased. Mary, what are your thoughts on that?
I have a couple of things that really touched me. I was thinking how wonderful it is for young artists, for kids, to have a mentor like that, where they can go into a jam session, pick up their instrument, and just join in. Like you said, no judgments, no criticisms, just let their love flow. I just love that. And then I was thinking, every culture will gather around a fireplace or a campfire, and they'll start singing. They'll maybe grab whatever is handy, but everybody's got a voice and everybody can lift that voice up. So I was just, thinking about, the Westerns that we've seen, where the cowboys gather around the fire and they're playing their guitars and singing about their horses. and then the jam sessions that I grew up with was just my family with their ukulele, just singing the old songs. I don't recall hearing new things necessarily, but that doesn't matter. Just to be together and to join in some exuberant, wonderful singing. Amen.
Thank you.
Even those old songs, Mary, it's like what's cool about playing the old tunes too, right? Is like that they're fresh in the moment, like with whoever's with you jamming them at that time, That's what I've always appreciated about just jamming cover songs, but they're fresh in the moment. They have that jam energy. And I was also thinking when you're saying that, that was something I wanted to share too. Yeah, cultures, like ceremonially, like in African cultures all around the world, there was, songs for these things, songs for expression. And I feel like we've kind of lost touch with that. And it's like and someone also told me the other day, speaking is a singing impediment. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. We're meant to sing, but our voices, our speaking is just catching, holding us up. And I was like, wow, maybe that's what other cultures were just so in touch with, that voice that was always music. So it was always expressed. It's like, oh, this is just how we navigate life.
Aloha, Greg. Have you been listening in?
Yeah, Greg.
Yes, I have. It's beautiful to hear my brother Paul talk and play and to see all your faces.
Yeah.
It's amazing if you think about how jamming together and really listening and kind of playing to your strength to make a harmony in every relationship that you come across. It's really possible if you just look at it in a different way. So that's jamming. You meet a person right on the street, start talking story. It might be something beautiful.
Buddy, good to see everyone. I wanted to chime in when I heard that it was mentioned that speaking is a speech impediment. No, wait, how does it go again?
Speaking is a singing impediment.
Speaking is a singing impediment. I really like that. I know for me, when I like to think of speaking, when we speak, we are we are hitting tones.
Yeah.
I hit a tones. When I said tones, it went up, and it's just really cool. I just was thinking about that. And there's a lot of great observations I've been hearing. Thank you. Yeah, I'll chime in when I feel it. Thank you.
Cool,
it's really cool. It's good stuff. Thank you.
Johnny.
I love the word you used, Johnny, of tone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel as if no matter what the words are, everything is in the tone in which they are delivered. And so we can say what in writing would look like the sweetest words, but we're saying with this jabbing tone, or the reverse. We can be stumbling over our syllables, and yet there's such a tone of sincerity maybe that comes through that people, that's what they resonate to. And we know that our lives are so affected on a daily level. When we pick up a telephone and there's somebody on the other end of it who, let's say we're trying to get service from a certain company or whatever, and you hear this impatient voice jabbing. I feel like it's jabbing me from the other end of the phone with their tonality, even if they're saying just the lines that their company tells them they're supposed to say. Just that tone, it isn't comfortable. So I think that is something about the musicality and how much emotion comes through the voice. What do you think?
That's why music, I think, is such an expression for those emotions. It allows us to channel this energy, and yeah, I mean, we heard that phrase, watch your tone. And it's like when we're speaking, but it's like tone is such a huge part of music. And like you said, like when somebody speaks a certain way, that their tone might, vibrate us in a certain way, because it is musical. Like you feel yourself speak. I have a lower voice, so it's like I feel this like resonation in my throat. Like we are vibrating energy outwards. And I think through singing, like you start to dance with that vibration and start to flow a little bit more with tones, like going really high or really low, and what that looks like. And I think there's an exploration of tone that is not everybody does, and it's musically for me, it's like I kind of needed to find my highs and find my lows. So it's like certain tones feel better, I think, just from my own critique with my own voice. Like I know tonally I'm gonna sound better if I sing in this key with this kind of tonal structure, and of course we can explore it, but there's also certain tones that vibrate with us more, I think. So it's like I think everyone has their own frequency with the tones they resonate with. That's why some music, like when I hear heavy metal, I'm not always like, yeah, this is my jam, because it's like the tone of what they're hitting note wise maybe isn't resonating with me frequency, but I can respect the music, the musicianship. And with some people, when they hear that tone, they hear that energy, they're like, oh, that's my jam. So I use that phrase a lot, even just in life. Oh, that's my jam. Just because it's like, yeah, like we were saying in life, it's like you start to, what fits, what's that frequency that you're sitting in.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder what came first, singing or speaking. And I think that as people, we started singing before we started speaking. And eventually we got so used to speaking that it got flattened out. But our natural communication is more music. And
Or
maybe not
just like, yeah,
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
Movements and the sign languages or the little subtle sounds.
Hi. As far as like because I used to be with a group in New York, and we do samba reggae music, so it's the music from Brazil, Bahia. And so just kind of going back on the note that you were talking about, Paul, about just being in the moment and just going for it. I think I really was able to see a lot of, well, was able to become more aware of the messages that I had for myself of like, oh no, don't do it, don't go in there, and don't go full out. And then there were like, I remember this one circle that we had, the instructor, like she pulled me out, and I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to do it. But then all of a sudden I started singing, and then I started making a whole bunch of other beats, and then like other people started to do their thing, and then it just became like we was just jamming. And I was like, wow, if I would have held myself back, like I wonder what that would have looked like. So like this ebb and flow, I think that's what I'm really that's really resonating with me, and just having the it's okay to be uncomfortable and just going in it, and not having that like a message like, okay, if it didn't go that well, like, okay, that was the moment and we're gonna just move on, you know. So and not like having that be like a constant message, because that can honestly come so quick and be like, okay, no, I'm not gonna go in and freestyle no more because I messed up that one time. But just having it be that moment and being okay with that. So yeah, that was dope. And jam, that's my word too. I'll be like, oh, that's my jam. That's my jam.
Yeah, Marnita, mahalo. And like sometimes we overthink things, like not letting it get to that point where you've thought too much about it and you're holding back. It's like, where's that spontaneity within our actions in life where it's like, just, you know, of course we have to do intuitive spontaneity where it's like you're going from that this feels right. But it's like, yeah, I think more spontaneity in our lives just creates more of a flow, like just jumping in with how, like you said, the ebb and flow is like how things are ebb and flowing in our life, instead of being too rigid of like, this is my structure for the day, this is what's happening. It's like walking through life in that jam and jumping in when we can. Ebb and flow. That's my jam.
I remember being in my NIA black belt training. It was with one of the two NIA co-founders, Carlos Rosas, who was actually an amazing musician and appreciator of music, and who taught us in NIA how to truly listen to music. So I owe a really great debt of gratitude to him for as much as I have learned about listening to music. And he took us a little farther along that path. And you're reminding me of it, Paul, when you're speaking of spontaneity, allowing flow. He had us go on what he called spirit walks. And a spirit walk was meaning that we were opening ourselves to allowing our own spirit to speak. And so it was a matter of just noticing all the little tiny details along the way that might indicate something to ourselves. He had the experience of doing these spirit walks himself, that he allowed himself to flow with the situation. So he landed one of these walks, I remember he went on and told us about. He landed to do a NIA training somewhere in Germany, a city he had never been in before. He wanted to have a chance to walk off his plane ride, just go out and walk the city a bit, so he could have a good night's sleep and get up and give the training the next morning. So he just walked wherever something just guided him. Oh, I really like that sign. Or, oh, I think I won't go this way. This doesn't feel right. I'm going to go this other way. And he would just follow. And he remembers having come to a certain street, and there was, like, let's say it was a cake shop, a dress shop, and then there was a building that had a stairway down to a green door. And he went that far and he felt like, oh, okay, my walk's over. And he made his way back to the hotel. It took him maybe another half hour or so to walk back. The next day, the person who was running the training came to the hotel, picked him up, and drove him to the studio where the training was going to be held. And as he watched, they turned down that special little street, and he saw the cake shop and the dress shop, and then the stairway leading down to the green door, which she took him down to open the green door, and that's where the training was held. And he just had these kinds of experiences time and time again that just gave him this sense of permission, which then he did his best to convey to us, to just go with the flow a little bit more, to be a little more spontaneous in life, to pay attention to these little tiny details. I mean, maybe it's just seeing a feather on the ground and picking it up and looking at what's in front of me and going that direction. You know, it could be that simple, but my experience with doing that was to have a lot greater trust in being spontaneous and not feeling like I always had to plan things out to make sure that they went right. Mm-hmm. I might miss something really important I discovered if I wasn't open to the moment and where things could go, if I didn't try to control it so much.
I love that. That's intuitive trusting, you know? It's that manifest of destiny, letting it happen, letting that guide. You know, while you're, you know, sharing, I remembered the first time as I was like really starting to get into a musical sense, I was actually a part of a theory class, and I was sitting next to this older man, and his name was Miguel, and Miguel was like really wanting to use music as a pastor at some point in his life. He's like, and I start talking to Miguel and start learning, and you know, just being open to the conversation. Turns out Miguel is the janitor of the dorm that I'm attached to in my college years, and he holds the key to this room that has every instrument, like percussion instrument, laid out, and he's putting himself through school for music by being the janitor at this school. And he says, I want to show you something. This is before I knew he had the key to the room, to the closet. He's like, I want to show you something. You sound like, you know, good guy. And he brought me down and opened this closet. It was just any percussion instrument we wanted. And he was like, yeah, let's jam. And he was still learning jam. I was still learning jam. And it was like interesting that moment of sitting and choosing and sitting next to that individual, talking to him in that moment, that then led us to have many jams, him taking me to concerts in town. It's just like a really sweet experience, like of life being like, oh, here, you two are meant to sit next to each other right now. You're meant to have this conversation if you're going to go with it. If you don't, life will still be great. It goes on in another way. But if you do, this is what could open up. And it's that remembrance of that door that you don't know could be unlocked if you just kind of go with the flow in that moment. Like I was just being myself, talking story with him. Boom, little did I know it was like going to lead to jams and like a musical journey. So I appreciate that reminded me of that.
Yeah. And if I could just, since this is the day we're celebrating Still and Moving Center's 10th anniversary, 10th birthday. I want to say that the idea of opening Still and Moving Center, people often say, oh, so is this your lifelong dream that's finally come true? And the honest answer is no. I didn't know until 7 months before we opened that there was going to be a still and moving center. And I was up at NIA headquarters. I was being invited to become a NIA teacher trainer. It was a huge honor to be invited. And I was right at the moment where I needed, with the rest of the invitees, to make my choice. Yes, I'm going to become a teacher trainer and travel all around the world training all these other people to teach NIA, or no, I'm not. And for me, that realization, no, I'm not, I'll open this. And what am I going to do? I'm going to open a movement center. I'm going to stay right here on Oahu and have all the people of the world come here to teach movement, here in Honolulu. And so I feel grateful for having been taught by Carlos before, be open when something like that comes your way. So I guess I picked up my guitar and started playing, and 7 months later we had a song called Still a Moving Center. Well, Paul, I can see that you've got your harmonica already, and we would love to hear a final song from you if we may.
Sure. Let's see. You guys someone want to pick another key? Particularly in the major.
Yeah, it's got to be a particular key for the harmonica.
F, just for the harps. That's the only reason why I need it. Not a sharper flat right now.
How about F for free?
All right. Free it up.
Stay free. Yeah. Does that work for you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me see. So with harmonica, there's different positions you can play a harmonica in. So harmonica is really interesting instrument because just like all instruments, you have these modes and different ways you can play them. But the bluesier style that I play is what we call second position. So first position is straight harp, which is like in the key of the song. So it's like if I'm playing an F, I play an F. If the band's in F, I play an F harp. And that's more like folky style, where the bluesy style, I walk up. So from F goes to G, A, B, C. I play a C harp. So it's like different ways of positioning yourself within the notes to get the sounds that you're looking for in the harp. F. Oh, you know what? I had totally... F is B flat. So I jumped to C, but there's that B flat energy in there, which I actually have one flat harmonica. It's the B flat. Sometimes you're still but flowing. Energy's always with you here and now. Take this precious precious little moment. Oh, and remember where you are in your heart space. What's taking place? So flow on, dance to your song, and move along with the vibration. 'Cause there is one feeling that can only be expressed from this heart space, yeah. Still and moving, I'm still and moving, yeah. Yes, I'll be still and moving. Yes, I'm still and moving. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let your heart be what guides you on, and let that song ring out loud. 'Cause you know there's a place you can go, heart and soul. Still and moving, I'm still and moving. Yes, I'm still and moving. Yes, I'm still and moving. One more time. Yes, I'm still and moving. Yes, I'm still and moving on. 10 years strong.
Always wanted to have a company song, and maybe it just has popped out. Oh, amazing.
Thank you guys so much for letting me be myself in expression, you know, and just letting what wants to come out, come out. I really appreciate when space is held in that way. So thank you, Renee, for opening Still and Moving Center and creating what you did with that intuition of knowing this was right in the moment so that others could explore themselves in that way. So following that ebb and flow, I commend you for that. So, and happy 10-year anniversary.
Thank you so much. You know, you were one of the very first musicians to grace our space. And yes, you did sing in front of this Shiva Nataraj statue. I know one of those times it was with Lucy Lynch.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So,
Ananda and Lakshmi.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So you've gone a long way with us, and thank you so much for that and for just sharing of yourself so beautifully and so deeply today. Truly a joy and pleasure to have you.
Thank
Jam and riffing.
Yeah. Keep that jam and riff going, y'all. Ooh, yeah, yeah, ooh.
Aloha, mahalo.
Aloha, friends. Hope to see you again in the world. Aloha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother.
Aloha.
Aloha, everyone.
And happy birthday.
Yeah.
Mahalo.
Happy birthday.